This is going to be a quick intro, but this video we are going to be grading every single trade of the offseason so far, and this video is being recorded on July 3rd, 2026, so some more moves might happen after the making of this video, and I will be making edits afterwards. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Alright, the first move is the Thunder trading Aaron Wiggins away for 2 second-round picks, with Aaron Wiggins being sent to the Atlanta Hawks. Now, this is kind of like a nothing burger trade in the grand scheme of things, but this was ultimately done just to get under the second apron. And knowing the Oklahoma City Thunder, they love second-round picks, just picks in general. They'll try and stack as many as they can, and the Hawks get a great three-point shooter, good defender, in a system where he could actually thrive a little bit with, Jalen Johnson handling the ball, Nickeil Alexander-Walker being the great perimeter player that he is. I think Aaron Wiggins will thrive in this Hawks system just as a 3-and-D guy. For OKC, I would give it a B+. For Atlanta, I would give it an A, just strictly due to fit. Next up is a 3-team trade between the Nets, the Bulls, and the Timberwolves. Timberwolves are giving Julius Randle away to the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are giving up Nick Claxton to Chicago, and the Timberwolves are receiving the 33rd pick. A lot of people had, some criticism for this trade. They were saying Minnesota was giving away Randle for nothing, but given how horrible he played in the playoffs this year and how low his value seemed, just dumping his salary to Brooklyn while Brooklyn is able to get rid of Nick Claxton and send him to a team that could use him is not that bad. And on top of that, Minnesota gets a second-round pick, and they can draft a guy that they can bring off the bench who could bring some value. Overall, I'm not mad at it because, eventually this is what would lead to Minnesota making bigger moves later on. So I would give Minnesota an A, I give Chicago a B, and I give Brooklyn a B as well. Next up is the big blockbuster trade that we were all waiting on, the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. And in this trade, Miami gets Giannis, obviously, and Bobby Portis, while giving up Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasparis, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, I don't want to butcher it, the 13th overall pick in the 26th draft, a 2031 first round pick, a 2033 first round pick, and 2 pick swaps in 2030 and 2033. For Giannis, this is a pretty good haul back for Milwaukee. Obviously, people were anticipating Giannis to go for a little bit less because he was sitting out for a majority of the season, and he is on a 2-year deal, so it's not guaranteed that he will re-sign with whatever team trades for him, but at the end of the day, I think this is a good trade for both sides. Number one, Miami finally pulled the trigger on a star post Jimmy Butler. They didn't strike out like they did with Dame or Kevin Durant or any of these other guys, and it wasn't some unproven or even diamond in the rough type of guy that held them back from doing so. Funny enough, it was the Boston Celtics who kind of fell into that trap where they allegedly didn't want to give up Baylor, Shireman, and Hugo Gonzalez for the opportunity at getting Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's laughable, but at the end of the day, shout out to the Heat. They finally pulled the trigger on something. And then for the Bucks, this establishes the new direction that they're going in. I think that this is a great trade. I actually made a whole video on this trade. You can check that out after watching this one, but as far as grades, I give Miami an A+. They finally just struck when the iron was hot, and that's all you could really ask for in this league. And for Milwaukee, I'll give him an A- just because Tyler Hero is kind of questionable for me. I don't know if he's going to be like the all-star that people are projecting him to be now that he's in Milwaukee, but given that there's a lot of young talent on this team, there will be a lot of opportunities. So it wouldn't shock me if he ended up becoming like borderline All-NBA or even just an all-star caliber player in the Eastern Conference. Next up is a draft day trade where the Memphis Grizzlies trade the 16th overall pick Bennett Sturts to the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is an A+ for Oklahoma City because all they had to do was give up their 17th pick. They pretty much just swapped picks, and OKC moved up 1 draft slot while only really giving up 2 second-round picks. But the thing that irritates me about this trade for Memphis is that they need 3-point shooting. They need as much 3-point shooting as they can, and Bennett Sturts was one of the best 3-point shooters in this past few years, or this past year, excuse me. He was one of the best 3-point shooters in college, and they just gave him to Oklahoma City, who just traded away Aaron Wiggins, who was one of their best shooters as well. And so now you just gave them another sharpshooter essentially for nothing. And the guy that Memphis ended up picking isn't as good as Bennett Sturts, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of trading for him. So I'm giving Memphis an F here because they're essentially helping OKC when they really don't have to. OKC gets an A+. On to the next trade. And Detroit and Memphis would end up trading again, as the Pistons would trade Isaiah Stewart for 3 future second-round picks. I'm actually a fan of this trade for both teams. I think Memphis could use somebody like Isaiah Stewart to kind of be a locker room presence, if you will. Meanwhile, Detroit can create some free cap space getting off of his $15 million a year. You know, Detroit, I give them a B+ for this. Memphis, I'd give them a B-, I guess. Next up, another blockbuster trade happening, I think, the day after the draft. The Timberwolves end up trading Naz Reid, a 2033 unprotected first, 3 first-round pick swaps in 28, 29, and 30, and 3 second-round picks in 29, 32, and 33. And the Timberwolves would end up receiving LaMelo Ball and Josh Green in return. Now, I have a few thoughts on this trade. I'm not the biggest fan of this trade for both teams, honestly. Actually, I lied. I am a fan of this trade for the Minnesota Timberwolves, but it's kind of a boneheaded decision for Charlotte when you think about it. Like, Charlotte just had the best season that they've had since the Kemba Walker era. The Hornets have been such a poverty franchise for so long. They finally get a star player that they can build around, and they finally build a good, decent roster around him, surround him with shooters, surround him with good defenders, you know, establish a good culture around all these players. And then after the 1 year that they had where they had some success, they end up trading their best player. And I know what people are going to say, oh, LaMelo's injury prone. LaMelo's only had 1 year where he's played about 50+ games. I get that argument. But at the same time, though, why not just give him 1 more year? If LaMelo can't lead the Hornets to a playoff berth, just trade the guy then. His value would ideally still be high enough to where you can get a better return than Naz Reid. But even then, you're going to be paying Naz Reid like $25 million for 3 extra years when you don't have to. You could have probably gotten some young players in return. And then also, what does this say about the Hornets as an organization? Like, what's the plan going forward? Are you going to build around Con Knipple? Are you going to build around Brandon Miller? Is Naz Reid the guy that you're going to end up building around? Like, what is the plan here? I don't know what they see in Naz Reid. I don't know what they see in these picks. I don't even think any of these picks are going to be that great anyway. So genuinely, if you're a Hornets fan, in the comments, please tell me what is the plan here. For the Timberwolves, this is a great trade. For Minnesota, this is a great trade. They finally get that playmaking point guard next to Anthony Edwards. They finally get somebody who can get Rudy the ball down low. That was one of the biggest criticisms I had about Minnesota for the past few years. It's just like Rudy Gobert has so many wide open looks at the rim, and it just feels like nobody's looking for him. And one thing about LaMelo Ball is he's going to make the big men that are setting screens for him and that are lob threats, he's going to maximize those guys to the fullest. Now, I'm not going to jump the gun and say that this is a finals team or anything, but given the fact that they've made 2 conference finals, they gave the eventual Western Conference champions a pretty good fight in the second round. I think that this is going to be a very, very fun team to watch, and this is going to be a very competitive team to watch. And I'm surprised that they didn't have to give up guys like Jaden McDaniels or Terrence Shannon or any of their really good young core pieces at all in order to get this done. LaMelo Ball is one of the best young point guards in the league, and you're pairing him next to Anthony Edwards, a guy that can consistently give you 25+. Jaden McDaniels, someone who has the potential to average close to like 20 a game. You still got Rudy, who's a defensive player of the year, and all you had to give up was Naz Reid, who really just acted as your 6th man. And you also get Josh Green, who can spread the floor too. Like, this is a very good trade for Minnesota. I think that they fleeced the Charlotte Hornets in this one. As far as grades, I'm giving Minnesota an A+ here, because they finally addressed their point guard problem and they finally get another star next to Anthony Edwards. For Charlotte, I mean, listen, I understand there's a justification that you can bring about LaMelo, but if LaMelo goes out and balls out in Minnesota, there's a real chance that this could be considered one of the worst trades in NBA history. Like, really, all Charlotte is banking on is if Naz Reid, as a second option at best, can average like 20+, because he's going to have the ball in his hands more often. I do think that Naz Reid is a lot better than his role gives him credit for. He is a good enough ball handler for his position. He can create his own shot a little bit. Like, we are going to see Naz Reid unleashed a little bit, so that might end up in the Hornets flipping him for more value. But I mean, I don't think that this is going to jumpstart the next era of Charlotte Hornets basketball. I guess the best bet is win 35 games and pray you get the number 1 overall pick in 2027. But I don't know. Me personally, I'm not a fan of this trade. I give Charlotte a D+ here. And another Thunder trade, it's pretty similar to what they did with Aaron Wiggins. They trade Isaiah Joe to Detroit for 2 second-round picks in 2030 and 2031. Pretty much the philosophy here is get off of Isaiah Joe's contract, free up some space so that they can make some more moves. And, Detroit gets a good 3-point shooter that you can surround next to Cade, and someone who is not the worst defender ever, but can be a pretty positive defender when he wants to be. I'll give Detroit a B+, and Oklahoma City, I guess, a B-, just because they didn't really do much here, but it is what it is. Next up, the Phoenix Suns trade for Miles Bridges, a first-round pick in 2029 and a second-round pick in 2027, and they give up Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and a 2033 first-round pick. Now, I will commend Charlotte because they are getting decent draft capital in this offseason, but given the LaMelo trade, again, I don't know how good these first-round picks are going to be, especially this one in 2033. There is a good chance that Devin Booker is off this team by then. I mean, it's 7 years into the future. This pick could end up being something, but, I mean, you get Grayson Allen, you get Royce O'Neal. These are guys that should be helping contending teams try and win, especially a guy like Royce O'Neal, who's a 3-and-D guy. I think Charlotte will try and sell high on him. As far as Miles Bridges for Phoenix, he's another secondary scorer you can surround with Devin Booker. He's also a lob threat. He kind of fits with what Phoenix is trying to do with like this small ball, high flying lineup. And they also get a 2029 first, which could end up biting Charlotte in the ass, because if they don't get their shit together by 2029, if they're not at least a playoff team, that pick could end up being a lottery pick at bare minimum. So I don't know if I'm a fan of giving up a 2029 first, but at least this trade is better than the LaMelo trade. For Charlotte, I give them a C+ just because of that 2023 first, and for Phoenix, I give them a B- just because I don't think this trade is going to move the needle as much. But things could get interesting with that 2029 first. Now, this trade is probably the most controversial one of the entire offseason. The Portland Trailblazers trade away Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray for Ja Morant. Now, this trade is controversial for many reasons. Number one, Chris Murray and Jeremy Grant are just 2 salary dumps. Like, Jeremy Grant is on one of the worst contracts in the entire league. But secondly, and most importantly, there were no picks involved in this trade. Not even a single pick, not a pick swap, not even second-round picks. Like, the Portland Trailblazers didn't give up anything for Ja Morant. And that really tells you how low Ja Morant's value is in 2026, because even if this was 2024, 2025-ish, Ja Morant is getting traded for at least 1 first-round pick. But this is what GMs really think about him. And obviously, people may say like, oh, well, the off-court issues are the reason why Ja's value is so low. But also, it's the fact that the guy can't stay healthy. His athleticism has taken a hit. His quick first step has taken a hit. His playmaking has taken a hit. Every single aspect of his game has gotten worse. And I don't know if there's going to be a situation where Ja can really redeem himself if, number one, he's being asked to, help a team win a championship or help be a part of a championship team. But number two, especially in this situation, he's competing for minutes with guys like Scoot Henderson, Damian Lillard, and Shaedon Sharpe. Like, there's a billion guards on this team. And if you know anything about Ja, he needs the ball in his hand to be effective. So I don't really know if this is going to work, especially given he's on a pretty big contract as well. Like, I don't really know if Portland is the right place for the Ja Morant, in my opinion. But I will say they did finesse the Memphis Grizzlies out of just taking on Jeremy Grant's egregious contract. So I kind of got to give them a little bit of credit there. But this whole guard lineup is going to be very, very interesting to watch. For Portland, I would give them a C for this trade. And for Memphis, they just continue taking L after L after L. They're getting a D+ here. And on to the next big trade that happened. The Toronto Raptors reunite with Kawhi Leonard. And all they really gave up was Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a pick swap. And this kind of shocked me a little bit because even though Kawhi Leonard was having a phenomenal season last year, I didn't think that he would go for this much. Because at the end of the day, say what you want about Kawhi Leonard, but, if you're investing so much into him as a player and you're giving him all this money and all this stuff, and it's not a guarantee that he's going to stay healthy, it would kind of make sense to buy low on Kawhi, But Kawhi had a phenomenal season last year. Even despite how the season ended with the whole play-in situation, he still proved that at bare minimum he's a top 25 player in the league. So him being able to come back to Toronto in a situation where he probably won't be the best player on that team, he may be the number one scoring option, but he may not be the guy on the team, as it's pretty much Scotty Barnes' team at this point. It will be pretty fun to watch. I do think that the Clippers, though, they are having a pretty damn good offseason because they're getting Brandon Ingram, who can be a good enough floor raiser for them to where they can win around 34, 35 games. And depending on their pick situation and how patient they are as a front office, they could build a pretty good young core with Ingram, Garland, Mathurin, Grady, like all these guys, along with the guy that they selected 5th overall, creating a pretty good youth movement over there, and I'm a fan of it. As far as the Raptors, you know, they're still going to be a great defensive team. They still have some good players on this team like Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shedd, Jakob Poeltl's still there. Obviously, Barnes is still there, Barrett's still there, and there's a good amount of playmakers and, you know, play finishers on this team as well, to where I think Kawhi will have a lot of fun playing on this team. It reminds me a little bit of 2019 with the amount of versatility that they have and the amount of good playmaking that they have, but I think it would be a better version of that. And also, Kawhi doesn't have to necessarily carry offensively like he would have back then. So shout out to Kawhi Leonard. I actually think both teams won this trade. I give the Raptors an A here, and I give the Clippers like an A-, B+, just because I don't know how those 2 first-round picks are going to fare. But overall, good trade for both teams. Okay, next up, and this might be contender for the worst trade of this entire offseason. The Los Angeles Lakers trade 2 unprotected first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, and mind you, the unprotected first-round picks are in 2031 and 2033, and those pick swaps are in 28 and 2030. And they traded all of that for Walker Kessler. And they didn't just trade for Walker Kessler, but they signed him to like a 4-year, $160 million deal. So you're paying Walker Kessler $40 million, and you gave up the last of any draft capital that you had. Now for the Jazz, this is a phenomenal trade, just because you're getting 2 unprotected firsts, but also not only are you getting 2 unprotected firsts, but you're also just straight up loaded with picks. You got a bunch of picks from the Donovan Mitchell trade, the Rudy Gobert trade. You traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. You still got Larry Markin in there. You still got guys like Filipowski off the bench and Isaiah Collier, who showed a lot of promise last season. Bryce Sensabaugh, who's a complete microwave. Also, guys like Ace Bailey, who, you know, is going to have more opportunity this year. And Keontae George, who showed a lot of promise as a scorer last year and is going to get a lot more opportunities now. But the biggest one of them all, Darren Peterson, who has the potential to be like the next Donovan Mitchell for this team. And I think the playoffs is a real possibility for the Utah Jazz, especially after this trade. But on top of that, even if they don't make the playoffs, they could flip certain guys for more draft picks. Like, if Larry Markkinen becomes available, he could possibly go for 2 first-round picks and maybe some swaps. Or maybe even another young player. Like, you never know who's out there looking for a wing who can score at will like Lowry can. For the Jazz, I'm giving them an A+, because they've just been mastering the concept of just stockpiling picks and young players. And they're also building this insane defensive unit with Triple J and Keontae and Ace Bailey, all these young athletic guys. It's going to be pretty exciting to watch this upcoming season. Now let's go on to the Lakers. Okay, where do I start? Number one, you gave up pretty much the rest of your future for Walker Kessler, and I don't think that they really needed to do that anyway. I get it. Walker Kessler is very, very valuable, and he's a pretty good center as well. But number one, I don't know if his health is going to be on point for them. He only played like 5 games last season, and on top of that, you know, he's not the best offensively. Like, maybe playing with a guy like Luka could elevate him a little bit, but, you know, you could have traded for a Miles Turner who could space the floor, right? That's pretty valuable in today's NBA, and who's also proven to, you know, anchor a finals defense. But what makes it even worse is that a majority of this team's cap sheet is tied up in 3 players. They just paid Reeves, they just paid Luka, and it's not even a guarantee that Luka is going to stick around. Like, Luka has 2 years left on his deal after this season. He has a player option, I believe. And if things go south with Luka, then what's the plan there? the next best bet is if they just trade Luka and flip him for assets and trade Reeves as well. But then if Walker Kessler isn't that great, you're stuck with a guy making $40 million a year, or however much he's making, upwards of 40 plus, who isn't that great, and he's eating up a ton of cap space. And I get it, the Lakers needed a good center badly, but did you really need to do this? Like, did you really need to do this? And at the very least, if you're going to trade these 2 picks, put a protection on it. Like, make sure it's like top 10 protected or something like that, or lottery protected. You're just going to give the Jazz 2 unprotected first round picks. I know a lot of Lakers fans are trying to be optimistic about this, but I just don't see where the optimism is. I gave the Jazz an A+ here, and for the Lakers, I'm giving them an F. Like, this is an F to me. Unless Walker Kessler shows signs of being a top 5 center in the NBA next season, this is an F. And last but not least, in my opinion, this is up there with the Lakers trade and, you know, the Ja Morant trade as well. But last but not least, we have the Boston Celtics trading away Jaylen Brown and in return receiving Paul George, a 2028 first round pick that could convert into a pick swap, a 2031 first round pick unprotected, and then 2 future second round picks. This isn't as bad of a trade in comparison to like the Ja trade, for example, or the Walker Kessler trade, because at the very least you can justify those 2 trades in the short term. This trade you cannot justify in the slightest, right? And I already made a video about Jaylen Brown and how I feel like he's getting so much unnecessary disrespect. But the reason why this trade frustrates me so much is that, number one, the Celtics could have gotten Giannis and they settled for this. Number 2, they could have just not traded Jaylen Brown at all and tried to mend the relationship, because at the end of the day, Jaylen Brown had the best season of his career this past year. But number 3, and most importantly, Boston didn't even get that great of a haul back. Like, maybe you can justify that 2031 unprotected first round pick, but other than that, what did they get? They got a 2028 pick that could end up becoming a swap, so that could end up becoming useless. You got 2 second round picks. Like, you're telling me this is what Jaylen Brown is worth? A guy who's a top 15 player, an All-NBA second team member, the guy who just averaged 28 points per game. Like, you're telling me this is all that he's worth? And also the elephant in the room, Paul George. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and disrespect Paul George and act as if he's just horrible and washed and this and that, but it's obvious that Paul George is not what he used to be. He's not athletic like he used to. His 3-point shooting is still good, but as far as his handle and his athleticism and just how quickly he can get to a spot, it's not like it used to be. So what was the point of this? Like, why would you do this? Why not just keep Jaylen Brown on the team? This is already a team that has won a championship before. All you really have to do is just surround them with good talent, surround them with a point guard who can distribute a little bit and play defense, or a really good stretch 5 who's also great defensively. And you wouldn't have even had to give up any bench players. You could have kept all the bench players, especially those 2 young guys that they refused to give up for whatever reason when they were trying to get Giannis. And as far as Philly got significantly better. First of all, Philly, they get an upgraded version of Paul George. They get a forward who's great defensively and is an elite scorer, and they get to use him more off the ball as well. They can run some sets for him. Obviously, Maxey can, create more gravity to where he can get open. Obviously, you still have Joel Embiid. You're taking even more pressure off of Joel Embiid. You got Edgecombe going into his second year. He's going to obviously get better. Like, the Sixers are doing a masterful job this offseason, giving more opportunities to other guys and letting Joel Embiid take his foot off the gas a little bit. And now Boston has to eat Paul George's massive contract. They have to pretty much pay him for a year. Maybe they can flip him for something else if there's a team out there that wants to take on his contract. But at the end of the day, you're getting 17 points per game from Paul George on decent efficiency, and you're getting somewhat good defense. Meanwhile, you just gave up an MVP candidate, an All-NBA candidate, just because you tried to dangle him in front of other teams and they weren't biting. This is a pathetic trade from the Boston Celtics. This was a uncharacteristically bad trade. Like, you wouldn't expect the Celtics to do something like this. And this is a great trade for Philly. So I would give Philly an A here. I'm not gonna give them an A+ because it's Philly. you never want to have too high of expectations for the 76ers, but I think this is going to be a great fit between Maxey, Edgecombe, Brown, and Embiid. So shout out to the Sixers GM. I don't believe it's still Daryl Morey. Is it still Daryl Morey? Who knows? And for Boston, I'm not going to say this is the worst trade ever, because at the end of the day, you still get a guy who can average like 17 points per game, and there is a chance that one of those picks could become somewhat valuable. And knowing Boston, they have a great track record when it comes to drafting, so I don't doubt that one of the middle schoolers in that draft could end up becoming something for the Celtics. But to get to the point, I give the Celtics a D here, or a D minus actually. I feel like I'm being a little bit too generous, but I give them a D. And who knows what the direction is for the next few years for Boston. But those are all the trades that I went through so far. I mean, it's only free agency that just started, and I'll probably make another video on all the signings that had just took place. But you know, we're waiting on LeBron to finally just make his decision. He's taking his sweet time, so when that happens, I'll definitely have a video out on that. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button down below. If you agree with anything that I said or disagree, make sure to let your voice be heard in the comments. Subscribe for more videos, and I'm out. Peace.